All right, welcome in, everyone. Thank you for coming in. I hope that I am able to clip this in the type of talk that I am able to load. I was, as promised, if you were in here earlier, I was able to get that talk from this morning loaded. So if you missed it, where am I going with this? Oh, if you missed the talk from this morning, I was able to load it to YouTube. So all you have to do is go to the link in my bio. You will be able to go to the link in the bio and get the full talks, or you could get a clip of it on my timeline here. You'll see what I just talked about. If that's interesting to you and you like what we talked about this morning, you can click the link in the bio. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, get the full talk in repeat. If you wanted to share or add some comments that you didn't want to add while live, you want to do it over there on YouTube, feel free, because you're always welcome. And I'm always giving thanks and grateful for when you guys show up, right? I always highly appreciate that. All right, I'm going to do my best to not get lost here over where I'm at, because I am live and what I'm doing. I mean, watching a live, I'm live here and I have some people invited in. So I want to make sure that I get them all caught up, because they're in their places where they don't get all the updates. And I'm doing my best to keep them like fully updated. And then you guys, if you happen to be tuned in and listening in, then you get to be a part of those updates. But I have some friends that actually really need me to do this for them so that they are keeping up to date with this. And so I do my best. All right. So let's move on, because we have a lot to talk about. Okay, we're in week 3 of the trial. Again, I'm going to do a recap because some people are new to the conversation, and this is something that we have to do. So, November 2023, Cassie Ventura, who is an artist who used to be signed to an album deal, with hip hop mogul, producer, businessman Sean P. Diddy Combs. Okay, they went into a relationship. That relationship did not work. A lot happened in that relationship. November 2023, which is what kicked off the Diddy trial, in our opinion. So in November 2023, she sues her former employer, her former co-worker, and her ex. She sues him in a really large way, accused him of a lot of vile things. That lawsuit was so huge, he denied, and he came publicly and had to admit it because he had to settle. And he immediately settled with that in an attempt to maybe get that out of the way. But just like other musicians that we've seen this happen to, like Michael Jackson, similar, right? He ended up being sued, and it became a bigger thing. Fast forward from November 2023, March 2024, the homes of the person, the music mogul Puff, his homes were raided. His home in California, the home in Florida, raids happen. Big story breaks. They tell everything that they found in the home. CNN shows a video to kind of collaborate some of the things that were said in November 23 regarding Cassie Ventura, and she becomes what is predicted to be the star witness in an upcoming trial. He tries to appeal. He doesn't get out. They set a court date, May 5th. May 5th came, 2025. That was the first week of selecting the jurors for the trial. Okay, and then they went on to week 2, where we began to hear from escorts as well as from the star witness, Cassie Ventura. And then I could catch you up on everything else, but we need to move on to today. So here yesterday, let's go ahead and get to Monday and then we'll talk today. So here yesterday, I'm sorry, I had that on a pause. Here yesterday, Don Richard from Diddy Dirty Money Group and Danity Kane Group was on the stand again, and she was kind of sharing again her experiences. She testifies about what happened when she was in the environment with Puff. She also testifies of things that she saw collaborating the story of the survivor, Cassie Ventura. So she testifies of the AB that she witnessed. She also talked about the egg skillet scene, and she describes that in great detail. We talked about that yesterday in the egg skillet scene, where she Don Richard, sorry, we used to call her Don Richard, so that's a hard one. All right, so Don Richard says that she saw a skillet thrown from by Puff to the ex, Cassie Ventura, which is the star witness in this case. Okay, this is all leading to what are only RICO charges. Apparently, the prosecution wants to paint a picture of who they believe that Sean P. Diddy Combs is, and that's what they're doing, presenting a picture to the jury. Okay, she testified about an egg skillet scene. She described Don Rashad that she was crossed, and she was crossed, I'm sorry, in great detail by defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland, who talked, kind of went in a little bit more than she was able to go in with Cassie Ventura. As we know, Cassie was bumped up because she showed up to trial very, very preggers and having to deliver within days. And so they had to move her in a position, which I think she really wasn't going to be there. I think all those other witnesses originally were going to be talked to, and then Cassie, but they had to switch it around because babies, they don't wait for trials, right? So they had to switch Cassie around, and that's kind of why it's looking sloppy and rushed and not making sense and doing the kind of things that happen in courtrooms where judges go, I'm throwing this out. When you are more professional and you have something that this looks like what you told me that it is, bring it back to my courtroom and try again. It's giving that because it's all over the place. Maybe the pregnancy, maybe sloppy prosecution. We have no idea. We're just watching this unfold in real time, knowing it's going to be one of the top selling movies in about a year or two, right? Predict in the comments, who do you think is going to write this movie? This is going to be a movie. We're not new to Hollywood. We know that this will be a movie. Who do you think will be in the movie? Who's going to star Sean P. Diddy Combs? Who's going to be Cassie? Who do you predict? I mean, it's going to be some kind of nasty irony if Jennifer Lopez is Cassie. I'm just saying, it's just going to be real. It's going to be something else. But Hollywood likes to draw in the stars, like to draw in our attention. So when they get the movie out, it's coming. Okay, Crypto, welcome back. Thank you guys for coming back. I appreciate all who come back. Please make sure that you tap the screen and follow the host if you are new. And I have additional information and timelines and things like that up, so you can go on my timeline, pick and choose what you want to watch. Follow, go to the link in the bio, subscribe to my YouTube so you can get all the live talks. And wherever you listen to podcasts, just please do type in What D Says, the podcast, to get podcasts that exist. Hashtag IMD Shields, and you can get podcasts as far back as 2010. All right, so going back, repressed memories are possibly happening with Don Rashad, right? So there are repressed memories happening, and we know that as they slowly return, survivors in these situations heal, they start remembering things, so things are being pushed and pulled out of those who testify on the stand. Carrie Morgan, the best friend of Cassie, also testified. But let's get to today. Because we have Cassie's mother already on the stand, but I'm going to back up and pretend that it hasn't happened yet because I'm going to back up to the beginning of the day. But Cassie's mother is going to be testifying. I'm already seeing, highlights of some things that have been said so far. David James testified for today. Was also on the stand yesterday. David James is the former personal assistant to Puff. So a personal assistant would definitely see and know and hear a lot of things, right? So prosecution just moving right along through what appears to be a long list of witnesses coming to the stand, right? Will be professionally crossed in many different ways by both teams. Seem to have some of the top. Prosecution and defense have great people on their team, so everyone's going to do their job, right? Or do it to the best of their ability, right? David James is testifying that he picked up escorts. Says, that's a part of his job. He picked up what he describes as escorts. I'm going to call them escorts. It was a P word that was used. Claims on the stand that he didn't know that they were the P word. He didn't know they were escorts. That's what he's claiming. He went with the bodyguard to pick them up. That's what he's claiming. David James also says that his boss, Puff, dangled embarrassing footage of him dancing, quotation marks, dancing, it's in quotation marks, that his boss had pictures and images of him dancing, and use it as leverage. Unpack that. Why would he need images of his personal assistant dancing? What would he hold that over his head? What did he not do? The Cupid shuffle the right way? I don't know. Like what exactly? What kind of dancing? Dancing where? Dancing in rooms, dancing on tables, dancing on, what happened? What type of dancing? Because you can't just say dancing and say he was using it. Did he have you going around the metal pole? What exactly? I just kind of ask all kind of questions in my mind. Anybody else like that? All right. But he testifies that Puff has embarrassing footage of him dancing and that he used that as leverage. And then look, Agnifilo, I want to try to say his name right, is on the defense team, right? And he says, before the jurors come in, he's talking, right? And he says, look, we oppose David James testifying, all right, in some of these parts, right? It's day two. We oppose him testifying about the incident with Suge Knight, right? And he goes, he's going to mention D Rock, he says, and he's a friend of Biggie Smalls. He says, that was decades ago. That's not relevant right now. We don't want to talk about that right now. And I guess, the judge is just like kind of going in and reviewing the cross, but what in the Suge Knight? Does the personal assistant know? And is he former personal assistant know? And what happened with Suge Knight? And you guys have heard the the jail calls coming from Suge, right? You've heard those interviews recently over the last couple of weeks. We've heard all the allegations and things that Suge Knight has been saying on his collect calls over into Live Nation, right? So is that some of the things that which are horrific in nature, that Suge Knight has been talking about on his collect calls? Or is that something that the defense says we don't want to talk about that? That's kind of like really messy stuff that we don't really want shown in this particular trial. You think, what is it that Suge Knight is saying that they don't want to be said right now? Do you guys, what are your thoughts on that, right? Also, they were talking about Cassie Ventura's mom is coming. So I want to talk to you about that. Ventura. Regina Ventura is going to be coming, or I'm like I said, I'm rewinding because I'm aware that it's already happened. But we unpack, we let the day go by and then we unpack, for those who are familiar, right? Um, so we want to hear from mom. We want to hear from mom of a child of hers that dated someone that has, not only this 2025 thing going on the stand and all these stories unfolding on the stand, but she was probably very closely, maybe possibly attached to what happened to her daughter and, over the years. And in addition to probably a part of that civil lawsuit details when it came to 2023, right? So David James also is testifying about someone that had long hair and he had large endowment. I don't really know. I try not to get into the details of those kind of things. Oof, you guys might just F1 in the chat. May have just got in trouble for even using that word. I know that there's a lot that we cannot say. There's a lot that we are not allowed to say. So, graphic details. He's just sitting on the stand discussing the personal affairs, right? Former bodyguard Gene Deal, very involved with the life in the things that have happened with, not just Puff, but the Combs family. He's pretty well versed on all things Combs, right? So knows mom, was there for the loyalty of working with mom over the years, and had that really nasty fallout that we've seen him detail in great detail on the art of dialogue. I know that he also has different things that he shared in different interviews, right? So he's been around, kind of floating around the courthouse, kind of floating around the topic. And now, just real strong this week, we're having this discussion about whether or not former bodyguard Gene Dill, will former bodyguard Gene Dill be coming to the stand? Will former bodyguard Gene Dill be coming to the stand? We that would be, if we were running this trial, we would bring them. But here's what's going to happen in a RICO case, and here's what's going to happen in any case when it comes to what I've learned over the years and seen and studied and reviewed when it comes to just things about the law, right? I'm not an attorney, just looking up things and seeing some similar. I'm a paralegal, just so that people don't know, but just seeing similar things that seem to happen, especially in the celebrity trials, right? High profile trials, especially. Um, I'm noticing that everything is not always, I know the reason why, but, I'm studying. That's neither here or there, right? But everything is not always put in, right? There's a lot that can't come because it's hearsay. Hmm? We could talk about it on the podcast. We can have a discussion about it in society, in public. We could talk about it in social gatherings, right? They may even talk about it in great detail of something that they know in the media. You'll see, all the different higher end outlets talk about things, but that does not always mean that it is going to make it. I'm sorry. I don't know who that request was from, but thank you. But hold on. I think it was like to do a collaboration kind of thing, and I did that last time, and it interrupted the talk, right? So we don't know, right? Like, a lot of things can be said and you can hear things about, if we're going to put anything, if we're going to take everything that's been said about Sean, Puff, P. Diddy, Love, Pop Combs, and put it in anything, it needs to be in a blockbuster movie, right? Because you can't put everything in there. And even in a blockbuster movie, it's going to have to be a 4-hour movie. Are you guys going to sit there, or it's going to have to be a Mission Impossible series. Like, it's going to take a lot, and they don't have that kind of time in a courtroom. Also, a lot is just not admissible, and it's like, do we really want to talk about that? Is that relevant to what we're trying to do? That is why I was extremely wrong, but I had the opinion that there's no way they're going to just go on and on about Cassie or anything that she has to say or any other Tony Busby persons with their civil claims. They are not going to talk about this. They're not going to make a big deal about this because I'm like, it's RICO. And that was my thought. But then we get deep into it and they decide right away this is what they're going to talk about. And this somehow has something to do with RICO when they get to that part of the trial in the near future, right? So, guess we were all wrong about that, right? So apparently all the stuff that you see that is just civil matter. You ever watch one of those COP shows? Can I say that? Cam shows where they will call the 3-digit number and then they come out and they rear out. I have to say things in a funny way, but they come out and the rear gets to the door and they're knocking on the door and then they're like, I was talking to Becky and she took my pot. And they're like, I'm sorry, what happened? And, because we thought somebody was like all tore up and y'all really need us, and you need me to pull out something on my belt, right? And they're like complaining that Becky, the next door neighbor, took their pot of juice and didn't give it back. Those are civil things, right? That's a civil thing. It doesn't belong in a kind of court like this, right? And that's just a very light, funny way of talking about something that this is not for criminal, right? You don't dial the 3-digit number because Becky won't give you back your favorite crystal glass. You take your butt down and file the $60, $70, $80 fee and do a whole civil case against that situation. Get yourself an attorney that'll charge you $10,000 to get your $500 crystal glass back. Or you could let the crystal glass go and let Becky have it, right? Either way, everything about something like that, that's civil, right? But when it comes to criminal, you would wonder why Cassie would not have just simply, I don't know, there's so many angles that I have with this, but you would wonder why the survivor didn't call the 3-digit number on different occasions. Why bypass all of that to then come and do this huge trial and add it into something that really, again, so far, what happened in the civil case, you are a participant of, and you should be brought up on RICO charges as well when the story's now all been broken down. But somehow the prosecution, they're taking us somewhere. We're going to go on the ride. We always do, right? High profile case, well publicized everywhere, well discussed in many different spaces. So we will go on the ride, right? All right. And then, like I said, we will be really going into great detail regarding Cassie Ventura's mother and her coming to the stand. So all of the things that come out regarding that conversation, we will talk about that. David James is, like I said, that testimony had a lot of, to do with his life as a former personal assistant working for the top, right? The top, risking the ability to not work for anyone else because you'll show up in court and testify for the other side. So may not get another job, right? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what all will happen with that? Everybody's careers and lifestyles are definitely on the line in the near future, right? So Regina Ventura is talking about things like taking a loan. She's talking, having things to say, and we'll break that down. Again, we'll go into great detail. I think that we're going to do a whole breakdown of everything that she had to say as soon as I've gone through the transcripts, right? But she's saying that something about a loan, that's being talked about, talking about being, they're already giving me restriction notices popping up on here, you guys. How can I say this? Why are y'all even letting us talk about the Diddy trial if everything that comes out of our mouth is about, and you're not gonna let us say it? Talking about things that happened with Combs where he would come at her and then it was scary. We sound like we're 2 years old discussing the Diddy trial at that point, right? But anyway, they don't let me say anything. I had a whole video up yesterday. You guys see that post that I made about that? I had to move the video to YouTube because Ding Dong got the crying about something that I had to say. Ding Dong. Anyway, no more jokes. Jurors are going to be hearing about a lot from the mother of the star witness, Cassie Ventura. So Regina Ventura is testifying today, and we will unpack everything, in great detail once they get to like the afternoon. All those good updates for the afternoon are up, and then I hear from the really great attorneys that are doing excellent analyst thoughts on this trial and giving us really good feedback as to what we may have heard, something that we said, and then giving us the legalese in regard to, right? She says that she took a loan. That's something that I want to really find out what that loan was about. She's been asked, why did you take the loan? And she had to take out a loan to pay Puff for something. And she declares, she testifies on the stand, Regina Ventura, mother of Cassie Ventura, that I did it for the safety of my daughter, right? And then she's told to look in the binder and identify some different pictures regarding the things that we know the jury has already seen. And you have seen those pictures released, right? If you haven't seen all the photos that the jury's looking at, that's been released, and all the major networks have those photos for you to take a look at, right? So that's kind of where we are with update for... Here we are, week 3, day 2. It's busy in those streets, and they're running through witnesses. We are still unpacking everything regarding the star witness. Remember? So we have this thing being told to us about it being an 8-week trial, but they are still just doing everything corroborating the story of their star witness, Cassie Ventura. The prosecution has not presented witness number 2. So witness number 2 will come. I'm going to predict. Well, no, I want to predict that it's Jean Deal, but they said it's a woman, so never mind. So anyway, witness number 2 is coming. 4 witnesses, all women. Star witness Cassie Ventura. Second witness supposed to be called after they get done with all this Cassie business, right? After that, the third witness. Last I heard, they couldn't find the third witness. Nowhere to be found. That is problematic and may cause this case to be thrown out. Who knows? Just going to keep on letting you guys know that sloppy, that you didn't secure that third witness, right? So that's on the prosecution. That's between them and the judge. But definitely sloppy work. They can't find that witness, the third witness. The fourth witness will then come. All these are all said to be all women. That's the reports that I heard last. And then the additional witnesses that you see are people that are being brought to the stand. They worked as clientele for the lay low and spread wide Wild King night business. Let's see if they let me. Let's see if I can get away with saying it that way. We'll say it that way from now on. Are they going to let me say it that way? They worked as clientele, as key workers for the lay low and spread wide business. Okay, let's see if they let us say that. If not, I won't say it that way on the next live. Okay, so you have the 4 main witnesses. 1 is lost, 4 main witnesses, 3 will testify, and all these other people that you see are just individuals that are collaborating the stories of what of the witnesses that the prosecution present. Does that make sense? When they are done, they are then going to be able to unfold. By the time they get to witness 4, they are supposed to be able to prove to us beyond reasonable doubt that this is RICO, right? Do you feel beyond reasonable doubt that this is a RICO charge at this point? Do you feel that the things that you're hearing about Puff's personal life, do you feel that that has anything to do with an enterprise widespread operation such as a RICO charge? All right, so let me know what your thoughts are on that. Get ready to follow the host. If you have not followed, please make sure that you follow the host. I'm about to close out on here. And as always, we'll come back and have this conversation in a few. Make sure that you're following. I can't tell you enough. Follow, because you never know when a live talk is going to happen. And sometimes we deviate to the other current events. We also talk relationships on here. Link in bio. Read one of the books. I have a set of 7 completed books and 3 more books coming out. 2 are releasing in 2026. So relationship talk at all times, which is more of my favorite. If I could put it in order of the things that I love: family, self-care. Well, self-care, see, my therapist is going to be like, that's what you did? I thought I taught you better. So self-care, family, and then I like to talk, relationships with others and how demeanor and how we carry ourselves, behavior, constant mentor to all those around me about how to go about doing things a better way, seeing it in a better light, presenting yourself in a better light, right? Like, those are the things that I like to talk about. I try to unpack those things in the books. Relationships with others, but mostly talking, choosing who's for you. Like my book, Remember This, Not Just Anyone Will Do. Who is the person that's for you? Making sure that you're making that life decision. Who's going to be the mother of your child? Who's going to be the father of your child? Where will you guys go with that legacy that you're building? Making those decisions in an intentional way will make a difference into how you build a life of greatness going forward for yourself, your grands, and everyone else, right? Surrounded around your environment. So those are the things that I like to unpack and do in the books, okay? And then you have the podcast, What D Says the Podcast. So wherever you listen to podcasts, What D Says the Podcast. If you want to dig a little deeper, then hashtag lyrics breakdown. You can listen to those podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also dig a little deeper and go back to 2010, where hashtag I am D Shields. You'll be able to pull all kind of not just conversations and talks about relationships, but sometimes you get exclusive interviews that I've done with people like tomorrow. I have an exclusive interview with LJ. You can tune into my YouTube live at 7 p.m. I'm going to be talking to comedian LJ, the one that you guys just heard from the other day on the show. We are going to be talking his life, the comedy life, the television life, all the things that he does and how he goes about making that happen in great Black excellence spaces. So we're going to be talking about that. So make sure you come over to YouTube. I'll go live and let you guys know here that, where I am and that it's live, and invite you over. Also, okay, the link will be in the comments when it's live so that you can come up and have a conversation with the guests. Always been a great conversation when I have guests on the show. I think one of the most lively, entertaining conversations that I've had over recent years was definitely Love, Marriage, Huntsville, Martell Holt. That is one of my greatest interviews, I would say, because people who are so invested into who they feel Martell Holt is and who he should be to Melody Holt and the babies and the children and everything. So you never know what's going to happen live on a great interview talk. Conversations with D, they happen in the summer, and they're always great talks. They come around every year, and I always try to grab me somebody good. I did reach out to our favorite guest to the show. The conversations that I've had since 2010. One of the greatest talks that I've ever had regarding just learning about something that I may never have learned about before, I would definitely say is with the adult life star, Mr. Marcus. And so I did reach out to Mr. Marcus and say, hey, you know what? Have you seen what's happening in the news? And there's some things being talked about, and I may need a little educational course for my listeners. And I did reach out to him. So let's see if Mr. Marcus will come back and talk to us. He's always a great interview also. All right, you guys, I got to get out of here, get back to trying to get some updates and doing some other things. It's hotter than Lucifer's tail when he sits at the top of the throne in Texas right now. I mean, it is hot. I can't explain how hot it is because it's hot. It's always hot in Texas. But I'm Austin, I'm a Texas baby, right? So growing up Texas, it was hot, but it wasn't ridiculous, right? But then I made this thing and I went to Colorado and I did some work in Colorado. I was in Denver for some years. Listen, don't live in -5 and be in the mountains hiking in the snow. Don't do that and then come back to Austin, Texas. You have no idea what that's going to do to your brain cells. You're going to crave the mountains as if you have a new addiction or something. I'm telling you, don't do it. You don't want that to happen. No, you definitely want to visit those Rocky Mountains. But that cold on a daily basis, snowing all the way through May, coming to this Texas. I mean, but we love Texas still. We're still the best no matter what you guys say. All right, you guys, I got to get out of here. Thank you for coming by for another great talk. And let's take a look. At least almost 300 people stopped by, so that's good for midday conversation. Thank you so much for coming through, and we're going to wrap it up so that we'll be able to stop it now. It's like at the 30-minute mark, so I'll be able to cover it, download it, and upload it to YouTube. Link in bio. Follow the hosts. Thanks.